Hi, students. This is Professor Staffolino from Writing 101. And I am sorry, I meant to get this video out yesterday, and I'm just getting it out today. So my apologies. Please know that if you have been working on your assignment or have even completed your assignment for this week and you need to redo it, I will give you an extension, no questions asked. I feel bad I didn't get this out sooner, knowing that we're doing some difficult concepts this week. So please bear with me and let me know if you need an extension. Just use the chat function in Moodle and I'll get back to you right away. But without further ado, I am going to get right into the content of this video. We are going to look at both last week's concept and this week's concept. Last week, I taught you guys about races formatting for your paragraphs. This week, we're covering Rogerian rhetoric. They fit together very, very nicely, and that's what I want to show you in this video. Before I do that, though, let me go over each of them separately. Races formatting is where we'll start. Races formatting is a method of introducing a support for a body paragraph that's going to blend evidence with your own reasoning skills. It is not really useful for introductions and conclusions in papers. It is very useful for body paragraphs. It's also very useful for your homework when you are, whether it's in your addiction studies courses or a different course, and you have to write a paragraph as a response. The RACES format is a great way to do that. And as a reminder, the RACES stands for this: restate the question, answer the question, cite evidence, explain, and summarize. Okay. So that is RACES. Let me give you an example, and let's just say you were asked this question: how do you bake the best cookie in the world? The reason I'm using this example is because it's relatable and hopefully relevant to you, and you can think of this paragraph more easily with that. Here's how we would do that. First, restate the question. I'm dropping the question mark. I'm turning it into a sentence. There are many ways to bake a good cookie, but only one recipe and method is the best. Notice this: I have not answered the question. That comes in my next sentence. So far, all I've done is restated the question. I took this question and I turned it into a sentence. How you bake the best cookie in the world? Here's how you bake the best cookie in the world. Okay? Now my next sentence is the answer. My grandmother's chocolate chip cookie recipe is, without a doubt, the best cookie. Now I've answered it. Better use good punctuation while I'm at it. Okay, now I have answered that question. Okay, so I've restated, I've answered. Now I need to add evidence. In our class, we are going to use evidence from the sources I've given you. In the context of a cookie, you could use informal evidence. You could say something like, anytime I make these cookies, my friends and family rave about how great they are. Okay, so that's an example of citing evidence informally. If we want to do it formally, we would use a direct quote every time. So it'd be something along the lines of, on page 87 of this article, John Smith writes, and then you're going to give me a quote, direct quote. That's what I want you to do for your assignment, okay? Give me an actual quote from the article, and that would be very helpful. It shows that you've done your homework. It shows that you've done your reading, okay? So that's formal evidence. But for our cookie example, let me continue. Now that I have essentially built the R, the A, and the C, I'm going to move on to the E component. The E component is the explanation part, and this is going to be where you go through you're going to give your account of why it's the best cookie. So, gave evidence. The secret to this cookie is that instead of chocolate chips from the store, you will make your own from scratch. This may take extra time, but the result is chocolate melts in your mouth, typos, that melts in your mouth. I just explained why my cookie's the best, okay? I started with my restatement. I then answered the question. I brought in some evidence, and now I'm explaining. Then finally, to end my paragraph, I'm going to summarize. And this is typically the cheesiest part. So, my grandmother has shared this recipe with all of her kids and grandchildren, and never once has anyone tasted it and not thought it is the best cookie they have ever had. Okay, I'm summarizing it. I'm wrapping it up. I'm bringing it to a close. So that's an example of a racist paragraph, and you can kind of see each letter in action. It's very logical. It makes a ton of sense, and it answers the question thoroughly, okay? So that's the racist formatting. Now what I really want to walk you through is the Rogerian rhetoric. Now, let's just take this one a little more slowly. Rogerian rhetoric is actually my area of expertise, and it's what I did a lot of my graduate work on studying. Rogerian rhetoric comes from the field of counseling. Carl Rogers was a counselor way back in the 1940s, actually, 50s, 60s, and he really combated a lot of the counseling techniques that were used at the onset of the 1900s. Those developed by Sigmund Freud and some other psychologists who are really out there. And Rogers said this: the best counselor is the best listener. Okay? And he said this: when a counselor looks at every single side of an issue, they have the most authority to speak on that issue. Okay? Now, you're like, how does this do anything with writing? What in the world does this have to do with writing? Well, in the 1970s, a group of scholars took the Rogers counseling method and said, we're going to apply it to writing. The Cold War was starting to get ramped up, and it was at a time and place when argumentation was I'm going to say my claim and I'm going to defend it. I'm not going to listen. I will not entertain other viewpoints. And this group of scholars said that is not good writing. That is not authoritative writing. That is one-sided biased writing. So they took Rogers' counseling technique and they turned it into Rogerian style writing, Rogerian rhetoric. So here's the goal of Rogerian rhetoric. Rogerian rhetoric looks at both sides of an issue before presenting the side of the writer. Okay? So traditionally in writing, you have make a claim, then defend it, then conclude. That is not what we're doing. We are going to suspend that claim to the very end of the paper. What we're going to do instead is we're going to introduce an argument, look at both sides fairly, and then conclude by picking one. So here's what this would look like. For the mini essay that I'm going to have you write, you're going to begin with an introduction paragraph. So let me just make sure my document makes sense. Your mini essay. Paragraph 1. Begin neutrally and introduce the topic. You might say something like, social media has many positives and negatives in regards to mental health. In this paper, I will look at both sides. It's going to be a short paragraph. You do not need to spend forever on it. Okay? 2 sentences is plenty for this assignment. We'll get a longer one for your final paper. But for this paper, short and sweet. Paragraph 1, say, in this paper, I'm going to look at mental health and social media. We will look at both sides of the argument, and we will conclude with my opinion on the matter. Okay? Then paragraph 2 is going to look at one side. What are the pros of social media in regards to mental health? Okay? You've been reading that article that I assigned. There are some pros in there, and I want you to include them. And you're going to make this paragraph a races paragraph. Okay? So it'd be something along this lines. This is an example of the paragraph. First, we will begin with the pros of social media as it relates to mental health. There are, in fact, many ways that social media can enhance a person's mental well-being. Okay, so I restated the question. What are the pros? What's the first side? What is the idea that I'm getting at? What's the topic? And then I'm answering it. There are many ways that social media can affect a person's well-being. Now I'll cite evidence from the article. I forgot the article names, the name of the article. So just give that a placeholder. The author writes, I am literally going to take a quote directly from it. Take quote from article. Okay. And I'm going to explain it. Now, explanation can be difficult, but I actually think this is going to be a lot of your strong suits. You are all very good at elaborating on something. Take that quote and put it into your own words. A really good sentence starter might be, this quote shows. I love that as a sentence starter for this part of the races. Okay, so this quote shows, and give me 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, and then end with a summary sentence. Paragraph 3. Look at the other side, which cons of social media. I'll once again have my paragraph start with kind of a general overview, then I'll answer it, and then I'll go into it. So it'll be something like this. On the other hand, there are some negative elements of social media in regards to mental health. These negatives include, give me some negatives here, okay? Fill in the blank. You're answering the question. What are those negatives? And I'm going to go back to the article for my C, my cite the evidence. The article says, quote here. Now this quote is about the negatives. And then once again, explain and summarize. So paragraph 1, you're going to begin neutrally and introduce the topic. Paragraph 2, you're looking at one side. Paragraph 3, you look at the other side. That leads us to paragraph 4. And then it's to conclude with your opinion. This is not an erases response anymore. This is simply your opinion. And I don't mind a little bit of informality here either. You can say something like this. After reading this article and looking at both sides, I believe that social media causes more harm than good overall. Or maybe you say something like this. After reading this article and looking at both sides, I actually think that social media can help people experience more positive mental health if used correctly. Then elaborate on that just a little bit, and then you're done. That is the assignment. I really hope that this video clarifies some things, but I also realize this is difficult, and I realize I'm asking you to do something that's new. So please reach out to me. I'm going to be better about just being quick to respond and quick to help you if needed. So please, please reach out to me if you need a hand. It's my pleasure to help, and I want you guys to do great on this assignment. Thanks for watching this video. Please let me know if I can do anything to help you. Thanks.